Thus far, we already built a lot. We added a lot of logic, we added a lot of things to our UI. Now it's time to tie up the build controls with our real ingredients so that we can really manage that burger on our own, or the user can. For that, we need a couple of methods in the build controller, in the burger builder, excuse me, to update our ingredients, to add ingredients or remove them. So I will add two methods here, the add ingredient handler, which will receive the type of the ingredient for which I want to add one, and of course the remove ingredient handler, which also needs to know for which type it should remove one. Now let's start with adding. To add an ingredient, I first of all need to know what the old ingredient count is. So I'll add an old count variable, or constant to be precise, and access this state ingredients for the given type, like that. Then I will calculate the updated count, which simply is the old count plus 1. And yes, you could of course do this in less lines. I just want to be explicit about what's happening here. Now I need to update my ingredients. I will create a new constant, updated ingredients, because as you learned, state should be updated in an immutable way. So I will create a new JavaScript object and use that ES6 spread operator, these three dots, to distribute the properties of the old ingredient state into the new object I'm creating here. And then I'm taking my updated ingredients object, access the type for which I have to update the ingredients, and set the count, the value, which is just the amount of the ingredients, equal to updated count, not counted, to updated count, like this. Now with that, I can call this set state to update my ingredients in my state. I also already want to start keeping track of the price though. So I will add a total price property to my ingredients. And let's say the base price for the burger, no matter what's on it, is $4. Now choose any price you want, of course. Now that's my base price. Now here, I want to update this price. So I need to have a mapping of which ingredient costs what. For that, I will create a new constant outside of the class, but in the same file, which I'll name ingredient, and I'll give it a capital name, ingredient prices. You typically name constants you want to use as global constants in all capital characters. So ingredient prices is a JavaScript object where I say, okay, salad maybe is .5, cheese might be .4, I don't know, meat might be 1.3, and let's say bacon is .7, or like this. So these could be the dollar prices for each ingredient. Now I want to update the total price with the price for the type we added. So I know that the price addition basically is ingredient prices for a given type, because keep in mind, I'm also using the same types I'm using everywhere else in the app, salad, cheese, with the same casing and so on. So for that type, I can fetch the price, and since I always add one unit at a time, I don't need to multiply this with anything. So I can now take my old price from this state total price and set the new price equal to old price plus price addition. And yes, again, you could do this in less lines. But with that, I can now call set state, and there I can now set total price to the new price, and I can set ingredients equal to updated ingredients. So this is now the state update I want to do when a new ingredient is added. Update the ingredients and update the price. With that, let's hook this add ingredient handler up to the more button in our build controls. To do that, I need to pass a property to the build controls. And there I will simply add a ingredient added property, which holds a reference to this add ingredient handler. Now inside build controls, I now need to distribute this correctly. So let's copy that property name we chose here in the burger builder. And let's head over to build controls. There I need to pass it to the individual build control we have. So there we not only have the key and the label, we also have the more button in there. So when added or when more was clicked, and you can name these props, of course, anything you want, then I want to pass on props ingredient added. So the property we do receive in build controls, the property we just set up here and which we're passing to build controls. Now with that, in build controls, I pass it on to the individual build control so that this build control can call that. However, I also need to, of course, keep track of which type this build control is of. So which type this build control has. And we do have this type property in the controls array, which we use to create all these controls. So I should also probably pass on the type to my ingredient. Now, I could do that, but essentially that's an unnecessary extra loop. I would now implement a click listener in the build control to just return everything back up. So I can just omit this and instead set up an ES6 function here, execute props ingredient added, so the function reference we're receiving in build controls, and there simply pass back control type. Remember, I have access to control type here because we're inside that loop where we're looping through all the controls and each control has a type. Now I'm executing ingredient added, which in the end will lead to nothing else than add ingredient handler being executed. And there I expect to get the type as an argument, which is why I'm passing it as an argument here in build controls. Now, of course, for this to work, this added property, which we're passing to a single build control, needs to be connected to the more button. So on that button, I'll add the onClick handler, onClick listener, I should say. That is provided by React, keep in mind. So that's not a property because that's not a custom component. That's a built-in element. And there I access props added. So this added property, which is passed down from build controls, which should in the end trigger this method then. Now with that, if we save all the files and we go to our burger, let's click more, and you should be able to add ingredients. Pretty cool already in my opinion. Now of course we can't remove them yet though. So let's work on removing ingredients in the next step.